And so I immediately texted Chip. I said, hey, I better be on those cut-ups. That install tape, when you get these quarterbacks in there and you're installing, I better have some keeps on there. And Pete chimed in immediately. That's a short clip. Quarterback keeps on zone read for Sanchez. So it was pretty funny.
Welcome back, or welcome to Y Option. I am your host, Yogi Roth, as always, joined by Jim Thornby, and it is the off season, so we're going to do what we think is most important, which is talk about quarterbacks. That's right, it is quarterback play today. We have a very special guest today, one of my dearest friends, first quarterback I ever recruited, coached, is just a dear part of my life. Mark Sanchez, that's right, Fox Sports broadcaster, NFL color commentator. You see him all over Fox all season long. You see him on the Colin Cowherd Show. You've seen him on this podcast platform before, but today will be his first time on Y Option. So, Jim, as we're preparing for this, our conversation, of course, always presented by our founding partner, 76. As we're preparing for this, we're like, well, let's talk quarterbacks in college football. Who left? We just had Dylan Gabriel on, my 5-star QB of the year. That was amazing. So much love for him for coming on. Heard from his mom, by the way. Dory, thanks for watching the show. I know she enjoyed it. And you start thinking, like, a lot of guys left. It's not like this draft is last year's draft. And clearly there's a bunch of new faces that are going to come into college football and also some key returners. So today is all quarterbacks. Jim, I'm curious in your research where it led you to.
Yeah, I think it's kind of funny, and I literally only this thought is just coming to me now as we're talking about this. Like we've now had like two back-to-back years of quarterbacks who just played a ton of games. I mean, you look at that class that had Penix and Nix and Jay Daniels and all those guys, and now you look at the guys who are all leaving now this year, whether it be Cam Ward or Shador, Jackson Dart, Jalen Milroe, obviously Dylan, Will Howard, even Quinn Ewers to maybe a little bit lesser of an extent. I mean, these are all guys that played just a ton of college football. And so these faces that we've seen, the last two seasons that we've seen, those guys that are leaving that we've seen for the last 4+ years, I don't know if that was even maybe, is that more because of the NIL stuff or more because of the COVID stuff of having the extra years of eligibility? But it really seems like we're going to start turning over some new changing of the guard, especially at the bigger schools.
Yeah, I think you're right. And to your point, our guys going to be there for a longer period of time, right? Here comes revenue sharing. Here comes governed NIL. I don't know. I think it's going to be really unique to watch the decisions that get made over the course of the next two seasons, right? I think the last couple of years we were living in a COVID world where like guys got an extra year of eligibility, right? You referenced Michael Penix Jr., Dylan Gabriel. These guys played 6 years of college football. That's not going to happen ever again. I mean, unless the JC rule just continues to be crazy town, which is a totally different podcast, a different conversation. But I look at this thing, and I read something last night around the Duke basketball player. I'm forgetting his name, who's like just a rock star right now.
Flag. Yeah.
Yeah. So the debate that I read this, I think it was either Athletic or ESPN, and it talked about if he wants to come back to Duke, but if he does, then he prolongs his clock on getting that big contract in the NBA. It's the same thing in the NFL. I mean, you could argue it's even worse because you're slotted. Like we know what everybody's pretty much going to make just based on where the NFL lands right now, what the draft is. That's been over the last handful of years. That's just how it works when it comes to the NFL draft. So are guys going to be saying, once this new model shows up, you know what? No, let me get my clock going in the NFL. Let me get there and then get to my next contract. Or are they going to say, no, revenue share is pretty good. The NIL deals that I can make that are governed but are legit are pretty good. Like that, I think will be a unique dance because we might look back at this era and say, whew, that was really cool. We'll never get that experience ever again. Regardless, where do we net out? We know it's Cam and Shador and Dylan, I'd say, are probably your top three, and Jackson Dart, top four quarterbacks. You referenced Quinn Ewers, Tyler Shuck. Those are guys all in the conversation, nowhere near the class that it was a year ago. But when you look at the top returners, I'm curious, Jim, like who has stood out for you that made you say, these guys might be the face of the sport heading next season?
Yeah, it's interesting because I think you look at in the two different buckets. I think there's the first bucket is the portal because we've what we've seen a lot from the last several years, and a lot of these guys that the names that we rattled off, they're all coming from their second or even third schools. So who are these bigger names that are going to the portal? You see like Carson Beck going from Georgia to Miami, John Mateer from Wazoo to Oklahoma, Fernando Mendoza, Cal to Indiana, Malik Murphy from Duke to Oregon State, Miller Moss, USC to Louisville. There's tons more, but like I don't know if any of those on paper, like just right off the bat, or I'm like, okay, yeah, that dude is going to just go and just crush it at the next place. It's all very much okay, cool. I'm very interested. I'm very intrigued to see how they're going to do at their new spot. How's the fit? How's that all going to work? So then you kind of go down like, okay, who are the guys that are still returning to their teams? You look at guys like Garrett Nussmeier at LSU, Cade Klubnik at Clemson, who seems like he's been there, for a really long time. Drew Aller decided to stay another year at Penn State. You got some of the younger guys that kind of popped last year with, Sam Levitt at Arizona State, Damon Williams at Washington, DJ Lagway of Florida. Arch Manning finally started to get some of those opportunities at Texas. Lenora Sellers was a guy at South Carolina that you heard tons at the end of the season once he started to get that thing going at South Carolina. And so there's really, I feel like a lot of white space there for people to really kind of make their name, because I looked at, some of the Heisman odds, and it was, I saw one, it was Garrett Nussmeier was the favorite for the Heisman odds. And I was like, I was kind of like shocked by that. Obviously he had a good year last year. They had the great season opener with USC with him and Miller going back and forth. But there wasn't really the guy to me that like stood out the way some of these other guys have stood out in the past. And I think that's just more opportunity than anything else.
Yeah, I think it's going to be really intriguing to watch. Let's look at the numbers. In the last 20 years, there has not been a single Heisman winner who was the preseason favorite.
Yeah, right.
Not one. The last one to do that was Leinart in 2004.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, Travis Hunter was like 20th on the list, I think, as far as favorites last year, and like he was a known commodity too. It wasn't like who's Travis Hunter. It was like he was 20th on the list as far as Heisman. I won't embarrass any of the people that were above him on that list, but like it was shocking when you look at it now.
Yeah, so it's just wild. So I think I think it's going to be great for college football moving forward, because I think there's a ton of white space on who can emerge as these stars. I think the challenge for every coaching staff that took a transfer quarterback in, like I just came from Alabama. We'll talk about that in our next episode. We interviewed Kalen DeBoer. You'll love the conversation we had. But they didn't bring in a transfer quarterback. Those guys were all recruited there. I think the ones that did bring in transfers, I don't look at any of these transfers and say, yep, they are a proven commodity at the level they're going to. Or are they healthy enough? Like Carson Beck is a perfect example, coming off, an arm injury. John Mateer, we saw him thrive with his legs at Washington State. You're not going to be able to go run like that, in my opinion, in the SEC against the defensive fronts that he's going to face every week. Fernando Mendoza, to me, he's kind of up and down at Cal. Like I don't know what we're going to see when he gets to Indiana. So I wonder what that dynamic will be like with the new face. Obviously, that position gets paid more than anybody else in the landscape we're in now. How does that fit into the team? How do coaches navigate that if they're not premium players like the guys that were in the draft last year, or the players that you referenced who are leaving and in the conversation for the early parts of the draft this year? I think those two facets will be really fascinating to just see how they play out, man.
And one of the things that I'm really interested in, I want to get your thoughts on this, because when we talk about the portal, and you kind of hinted in there with the Alabama answer, you look at like the quote unquote bluest of the current blue bloods, like the teams that have been the last 5 years or so been those elite teams: Oregon, Ohio State, Alabama, Georgia, Michigan. Like none of those where you look at it and go, oh, I know that is going to be the quarterback and he's going to be like the dude and ball out and stuff like that. Like with Oregon, like Dante Moore is probably going to be that guy, but there's other guys, right there behind him that were, fighting in that mode. Ohio State, Julian Sand was kind of like is a big time prospect for the backup, but like they've also got another, Tavian St. Clair, who we saw at Elite 11 last year, going to come in. Like, what's that? Alabama, Ty Simpson, another one of your Elite 11 guys. Georgia, we saw Gunnar Stockton once when Mills got hurt. Michigan is obviously spending a ton of money to bring in Bryce Underwood, the heralded 5-star recruit. But none of those situations where I'm like, oh yeah, like they're like set it and forget it. Like you're good at quarterback for this year. Like it's all like really interesting. So I'm curious from your viewpoint of like, why are these teams even maybe less certain in quarterback as far as the way these rosters are being built?
Yeah, I think it's important to have like a guy who I wish was a good friend, Malcolm Gladwell, like revisionist history on this. Like you go back and number one, all of those blue bloods you referenced, Oregon, Ohio State, Bama, Georgia, Michigan, all the guys you referenced came out of high school. They signed there. Right? Like they don't have a guy who came in via the portal. So I think it's kind of cool because they're entrenched in the culture. They've been trained. And to me, the coaching staffs made a huge statement by not going to try to go get somebody in the transfer portal. Right? They're like, we see what we like what we've seen in practice. So I'll go, that's number one. Number two, you got to look at the market. Like I look at all those that transferred. Carson Beck, we'll see what happens. I hope he gets better. Big fan of him, Elite 11 alumni. John Mateer, we'll see what he's like at that level. Like you look at the guys that have transferred and they were told at their previous stop, I was just with Malik Murphy, Duke told him, hey, we're moving on. And he played well. They won whatever it was, 8, 9, 10 games, right? Jackson Arnold was a 5-star quarterback. Oklahoma, we're moving on. So I think it's hard to make a judgment right now because when I go back and I think of Bo Nix, I go back and think of Michael Penix Jr., even Jaden Daniels. We're not like, yeah, well, look, here, LSU, here it comes, right? Not everybody, there's some key people that are either fans or alums of Arizona State that I think inappropriately lit up Mr. Daniels when when he left. And now everybody's celebrating his Heisman and rookie campaign, which is fine. That's how the life goes. Bo Nix, people were killing him at Auburn, right? Like they couldn't wait for that to move on. Michael Penix Jr. was like, is he going to be healthy? He wasn't even announced as a starter until the end of training camp. So I just think like it's important to pump the brakes on, oh, it's not a good transfer class, or hey, what's going on at these blue bloods? They haven't named a guy. Like I think you have to take it all into consideration. Number one, look at the market. I don't think there was really marquee names. Like you could argue the hottest name in the portal was John Mateer or Fernando Mendoza coming out of the West Coast. I don't even know it's much of an argument. Like Miller Moss would probably be the third one in that regard, right? Malik Murphy, once he got in, it was a big one coming back to the West Coast. So I don't know, like I don't know how it'll shake out. Even Ashton Daniels goes Stanford to Auburn, as we look. Devin Brown comes on back to the West Coast. He was a one-time commit to USC. Now he's at Cal. So we'll see. But it's just fascinating to look at it because I think it's cool. It's the first time in a long time we haven't had a face of the sport at that position entering a season at any school. I don't know who you would say is the face of college football. Cade Klubnik, maybe because the way they finished, right? And what he did in that ACC title game. Maybe, but how many people around the country would agree with that? I don't know. They might say Arch Manning just based on the name and the pedigree.
On the name value, yeah. I could see that. And it's funny too, because I think part of it is so much of the media culture of like always needing to know now and everything, about that. So it's like, as they build them, we've talked about this plenty of times on the show and had guests talk about this plenty of times. They build you up to tear you down. Yeah. So it's like, but all of these guys now like have such, there's so much potential. There's all these names we read off. There's so much potential everywhere, but not as much performance history. And I think that's what's going to make maybe this could be one of the more intriguing seasons. Obviously we'll see once the spring portal shakes out too, because we have a whole nother curve to go through there. But once we know what these rosters look like, I mean, I think it could be wind up being a really intriguing season because you don't have that. Oh yeah, you know that this is going to be the school, and you know this is going to be the dominant team, and whatever like that. Like, I think there's a lot more. I think parity is really kind of growing in the sport.
Ready, set, dream cabin nestled in the woods. Just 4 hours to go. New job halfway across the country. Butterflies before a first date. Wherever you go, 76 fuels all the ways you go, go, go.
Yeah, I think so too. And we'll talk more about that on our next episode because I talked to a bunch of people that some like it and some, quite frankly, don't.
Right.
With where the sport stands right now. Okay, so we had to bring in one of your favorite quarterbacks, one of my favorite people of all time, as our guest today. Mark Sanchez played in the NFL for a long time, was a big-time draft pick, found his way to the New York Jets, took that city by storm early on in his career. Now he's a broadcaster at Fox. He's got a beautiful lens on the position. He also has the best lens on Pete Carroll and Chip Kelly and how this thing might shake out in Las Vegas because he's the only quarterback to have started for both Coach Carroll and Coach Kelly. So that is really fun. And as always, every one of our conversations is presented by our founding partner, 76, keeping you in the know on the go, go, go. A little hint, Mark Sanchez and his incredible family, they will be going really fast, really soon. You'll understand why as we jump right into that conversation. Oh yeah, folks, this is good. This is Mark Sanchez. Mark, welcome back to the show. We've had you on before. I'm fired up because you got a lot going on. I saw on social media you got twins on the way.
That's
Congratulations on
right.
that, man. So how's life?
Twins
Give us a
on the
quick
way,
little
buddy.
update. Football season's over.
Thanks for having me back. This is my first time on Y option,
Yeah.
which is one of my favorite routes. Um, I was lucky enough to have some really good tight ends. The place sucks if you don't got a good tight end. So I can appreciate that throughout my career, and I'd love the title. But just a quick update, sure. Super Bowl's done, so season's done for us. I had my recap show with Colin Coward, and probably maybe one or two other appearances there for Fox and FS1 during the off season with free agency and draft stuff, breaking down some QBs. So I'll be leaning on you a little bit for that. And
Let's go.
then in our next season of life, we got two twin girls on the way, identical twin girls. So first time as a girl dad, first time as a twin dad. There's a lot of new nuances and clicks that I'm learning about when it comes to having kids. You know, I already got the boy, and he's 8 years old now. He's rocking, playing basketball, playing a little flag football. He was in the Nutcracker earlier in the year around the holiday time, so he's got it all going, and I'm excited for this next chapter. It's a lot, but it's perfect timing. We're off season, no work, you know, essentially no work, but always something going on, and we're ready. I'm lucky to have a great wife and a supportive family.
I love it, dude. Great update there. Great update. Okay, so we got to set the framework for today. We want to talk about quarterback play. Okay, we
Yeah.
know we both have a affinity for that. I want to talk about like kind of what do you need to do to survive and or thrive at the next level? Where you were a quarterback there for a long time, played with a bunch of different teams. So we'll get into that. But I got to start with a place that you and I know all too well. Okay, we're going to start right here in the call sheet.
Yeah.
Okay, just to give a little context for everybody, this is what I did back in the day when
That's
Mark was
great.
playing at USC, right? So we're going to go to this section. Okay, I want to find out if you remember it because part of my job was, of course, working with you and the quarterbacks, but I was also the signaler. Okay. And we had
That's right.
wristbands sometimes. So I want to know if you can do the signal back to me. Okay. I
Okay.
just thought of this like 2 minutes ago and I was like, let's
Yeah,
have
this
some
is
fun.
great.
Okay. So we're going to go to this section called FTS. You remember what that is?
Feed the studs. Feed
Okay.
the
We're
studs.
going to feed the studs. Okay. So we are going to go, we're going to go with, let's go. Okay. We're going to go green 7. Okay. We're going to go a little green 7. And that was
Oh, dude,
green.
green was here.
Yeah.
Well, red was here, right?
Okay. Sure. Red.
Yellow
Yeah.
teeth, yellow pants.
Yeah. I remember
I
that.
thought red was, oh, that's
Yeah.
R also. That
Yeah.
was the halfback R.
Okay. All right. Well, regardless, we're
Well,
gonna.
seven was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then 6, 7. So
Okay.
seven
So
would have been like
we're,
that.
we're okay. Green 7.
No,
We're gonna go.
green is grass. Green was
Oh yeah, yeah.
grass.
Green grass. Okay. Green,
Green
green,
seven.
green, green
Green
7.
seven.
Green 7. Okay. So you're gonna go to
Yeah.
the wristband. See if you can signal this back to me. Okay. We're gonna go Pony Jet personnel. Okay. We're gonna go Trey Wright. I go John Gruden right now.
Pony,
Trey Wright
jet,
bunch.
pony, jet.
Okay. Trey Wright bunch. Z Wright. 68
Hmm.
Sam Pony Shake. R swing left on one.
Trey was like this.
Yeah. I like
Right
it.
was here. This was
Yeah.
left. So Trey, right, bunch. What was it? Z right.
Yeah.
So it was Z,
Yeah. We're
and
gonna.
then right.
I like it.
68 Sam. So it'd be 68
Yeah.
Sam, like Yosemite Sam
Yeah.
mustache.
That's right. I like
And
it.
the concept was, what was it?
68 Sam Pony Shake R swing left. That's what it was.
Pony, and then
Yeah.
shake was dice. I thought
Yeah, you're
shake.
right. I like it.
Um, or
R.
ooh, what was swing
Yeah,
for
swing. I
baseball
like
swing.
and left.
Pony, shake, or swing.
Left.
Left.
Yeah, there we go. And if
Whew,
you yeah, it's pretty good now. That's 20 years
dude,
ago.
dang, that's deep, like
Yeah.
down in my pinky toe of my
Yeah.
brain. I don't
That's
know how I
just
found that.
that is buried. I'm with you, dude. I'm with you. And like if I had to do the end of it, you didn't know the play, right? So I I,
That's
I
right.
love that framework. I remember both of us learned this story from now the Detroit Lions offensive coordinator Johnny Morton.
Yeah,
Johnny Mo is what he goes by, and he told us a story. I'll recall it for you if you don't remember. He said back in the day, the way that like the best quarterbacks in the NFL would operate is you'd only have to give them not just like half of the play and they finish the rest. We've heard of that story forever. But you would just have to say, all right, we're on the left hash, minus 40, Pony Jet personnel. And they would know how to call it based on the hash. Like they knew everything. So that I think is like graduate level play at the position. So I want to start there for you. Like, what is it like as you're calling games on Fox every Sunday in the National Football League? What's it like? What do you need? Like, what are the must-haves right now if you're going to go play at quarterback compared to when you entered the league, over a
sure.
decade ago?
Well, I think, that was a real um, marker on the week's preparation of whether I knew the calls or not and how I felt going into the game. Being able to memorize the call and knowing if we're on the left hash, I'm going to get the regular play. If we're on the right hash, I'm going to get flip, wristband, whatever. Just knowing that everything's dialed up for the left or middle of the field. And then understanding, we have drive two ways this week. It's out of Tiger personnel or it's out of Zebra personnel. And if it's out of Tiger, it's flank or flex F short. And if it's out of Zebra, I know it's out of deuce, dual, double, whatever we want to get to, right? And so just being able to start there, I think what leading into your question is the lack of time you get as rookies now to learn that system, to install that offense as an NFL rookie. I mean, I got it probably, gosh, we started with rookie mini camp, so that's one installation. Then we go into OTAs, that's a second installation. We had like rookie school, rookie quarterback school, which would happen before. That's an old West Coast thing where the quarterbacks, kickers, rookies, you show up early for training camp. So that's a third installation. And then training camp, you basically get four installations of one offense. And hopefully in those, 10 to 15 days it takes to install everything you want to install, you go through that four different times and you're feeling pretty good going into your rookie season. You think you know the playbook, you think you know the offense. And then if you're lucky enough to be a guy like Drew Brees, like Patrick Mahomes, like Tom Brady, like Peyton Manning, and you get to keep that offense for the next 3 to 5 years of your career just to start, I mean, that is such a huge plus to keep the continuity of the language the same. Because now those plays, if you can imagine an offense, has to be like a living, breathing thing. It has to be real. And if it's going to do that, that means it's going to evolve and it's going to grow based on your personnel. So you have a playbook that's this thick, and every week you're taking out small sections of that playbook to find your formula to win versus that team. If players can understand that coming into the game, coming into their rookie year, I think they have a huge advantage. Guys like Jaden Daniels last year, I mean, he wowed everybody, but it really was a lot of it between his ears. You should have seen this guy. We had two of their games, and just in production meetings, the way he would talk about the flow of the game as a rookie and what he was kind of expecting. A lot of announcers or play-by-play guys and color commentators will say, or analysts will say, so what is this defense showing you? And a lot of times you might perceive that as like, oh, maybe they didn't watch the tape this week, right? So I'd try and get a little more specific because I remember sitting in that production meeting before the game and somebody says, "Hey, what do they do on defense?" And I'm like, "Bro, you didn't watch them all week? Like, what game are you getting ready for? I'm working my ass off trying to beat this defense, but I'm not giving everything away." So it was just one of those things. So I'll ask specific, a little more pointed questions, right? Instead of just, "Hey, what'd you see from the defense?" Hey, that third down package when they bring those two backers up in the A gaps, they got some nasty stuff out of that. How we feeling with that? You put in a little extra prep with the center, with the offensive line, with the O-line coach. Like how does that work? You got some answers in your tool belt for that. And to hear him talk about it, yeah, we got really three options. We're either going to quick release the back and try and get him one-on-one with an end. We're going to bring in the tight end, stay the tight end, and, make a Ron or Lou call, slide three linemen. Or I'm going to max protect it if they're bringing more than we can handle. And I'm bringing the tight end, keeping the back in, and we're going for the throat. And I'm like, whoa, this guy's like got it. Like he's got it in spades. And credit to, Cliff Kingsbury for the second opportunity at calling plays in this league. It's not easy. Guys like him, guys like Chip Kelly, these guys that get second opportunities. And I felt like that was a theme last year. Sam Darnold, Baker Mayfield, all these guys retread. Like they got a little more mileage left. And now Cliff has a chance with another rookie quarterback who's got, ungodly amounts of talent. Now I got to put him in a great position to succeed. And, maybe there were some shortcomings with him and Kyler Murray in Arizona. Maybe that was because he was the head coach right away. Maybe, calling the plays, whatever it is. But he found a way to be successful this year with a rookie quarterback. And I think a lot of that is understanding the playbook, understanding the purpose, the play caller's purpose when he calls the plays. We're not just running plays for our health. We got a method here, and we got a system in place, something to fall back on. And if you can get there as a rookie, I'm not saying it's easy. There's very few that have been able to do it. But if you can get there and start thinking about some of those things, you're really on the right path.
Okay, there's so many ways to go after that answer. So I'm going to start with
Sorry, it's long.
no, that was so good because I want to talk about broadcast meetings. I think that's really cool. Just being a fellow broadcaster, right? Fox, Big Ten Network, like yourself, but also the quarterback position in college and the NFL. So let's start in college. You are unique, right? You played one season. We all don't have to go back to YouTube and watch how you just, went to the NFL after 1 year. We all know that story. But there's a world now where guys are playing. Dylan Gabriel's played the most games in the history of college football, right? Bo
It's
Nix
crazy.
was that same thing a year ago. So I wonder, Jaden Daniels, he played in two systems, played a ton of college football. When you look at the landscape now, right? We're coming up on the draft. I know you're going to be diving in. We just did Dylan Gabriel right here in this studio on this show last week. Do you value, okay, is it in order? I'd love to know. Is it acumen and can you process all the things you just referenced? Is it snaps at the position in a premium college football level? Or is it just, hey, this guy has really unique tools? Like, how do you value those things? Because we're in a different world now, as you know. Guys are getting paid more than NFL rookies, right? I mean, there's how many college players made more money than Brock Purdy last year? I bet at least 5 quarterbacks,
It's
right? Like,
crazy.
it's wild. So I'm just kind of wondering, because you are a unique one, man. Like, you had your one season, then you went and achieved your dream. This era, maybe you come on back and you make more than you made as a rookie. I don't know what you might decide to do, but I'm curious as you look at the landscape, what is the thing that matters most for the position to thrive at the next level with the landscape of college football today?
It's such a good question. I think there's a ton of avenues to go down, but there is something for reps, time on task in real football games. And of those real football games where these guys are coming from, these big time colleges, I didn't win as a starter for 1 year. I didn't win a single fourth quarter comeback. I didn't have one. we executed maybe a handful of 2-minute drills to either get field goals or touchdowns. Third downs were tough, but for the most part, we had the personnel to handle anything we were facing.
The call
So we
sheet.
had great
Yeah.
players.
Yeah, read the call sheet, folks. I mean,
We had great players, and we had Coach Sarkisian, we had Yogi, we had Pete, we had so many guys, Kiffin, Johnny Moe. I mean, Todd McNair. I mean, we had people who could identify weaknesses on defenses and then plug it into the quarterback. And, you guys are using us out there to execute the plan. And we felt like we were at an advantage most of the time. In the NFL, it's not always like that. The playing field is so even. So I want to find reps. So the more reps you have, the more chances you're going to have in those 2-minute moments, end of half, end of game. The more chances you're going to have on third and long, third and medium, with a dirty pocket, one move up, one move over, and get me to your third, fourth, and fifth option. Once you start narrowing it down in the Exos machine or huddle, and you want dirty pocket, third down, 5+, 2 minutes left in the game, down by a score or more. Well, now all those thousands of reps that you've taken shrunk down to about 25, 30, maybe. And now I want to know who this player is in those moments. I want to know. I want to go watch them after the game at the podium. This is one of my favorite things to do. Just go watch these guys after a game where they played like crap. I mean, just absolute horrible. 3 picks, fumbled, everything was bad. I just want to see him. I just want to watch him. How do they handle the presser after? Because you're going to be doing that every week. And everybody's going to have their phone and say, hey, did you see our franchise quarterback and how much of a stud he was after the post game, after he had a bad game? Or, man, this guy just shriveled up. This is terrible. That was hard to watch. And so those things are important to me. I want to see him after the game, and then I want to see those 25, 30 cut-ups of those crucial moments in a game, because that's going to be most of what you do. It's what you minor in college. It's going to be what you major in the NFL if you want to be good and your team wants to advance.
I love that. I think that's a social media clip right there. What you minor in college, what you major in the league. I think it's pretty cool. I just came back from Tuscaloosa at like 3:30 in the morning today. I spent some time with the team, and I did. Yeah, so I'm rolling right now, Mark. Don't worry about it. I'm like training for twins, even though we don't have them coming.
Just about ready to fall off the cliff here.
Yeah, but to that point, I did media training for the players. Spent some time with a couple different guys, and one of the lines I told them was, after a loss, you'll gain so much more regard and respect from members of the media if you show up, especially as a quarterback.
Oh, 100%.
Like even if you do throw 3 picks and it's a pick 6 to lose the game against Georgia and the SEC title's on the line, or whatever it might be in the Big Ten, or, you name the league, name the game. And I think that's a really cool note that every college quarterback needs to hear in every communications department, because I think there's a world where, like, they are still young men that are growing and evolving. I still believe that. Like, you can get paid as much as you want, but you're still in this space where, like, you're still trying
100%.
to figure life out. And the game has gotten professionalized. So there's this growing up that has to happen. And I think what's interesting, where I want to go next, is that in college football now, your quarterback room was epic, right? You had Leinart, you had Booty, you had Mitch Mustaine, right? Then came in Aaron Corp, right? And then right behind you was Matt Barkley. I mean, it was a pipeline. David Shaw told me, shout out to David Shaw, the Detroit Lions pass game coordinator. Love that man. He used to always say there's only enough oxygen for 3 quarterbacks in the room. So everybody feels as though they have a shot to play. This was pre-NIL, like pre-transfer anytime you want. Now I feel like there might just be room for 1, because all the guys want to play. So I want to go here, because eventually, we're going to eventually get to the NFL and the Raiders. But I want to go here around, do you, as a quarterback who, okay, say you're the only guy in the room, because that's how it works. Like, who the starter is pretty much everywhere because they're getting paid the most amount of money. Is it a better move for the quarterback to just play? Because the coach is like, hey, I just got to play him. Versus do what you did, what Leinart did, what guys did at SC, Booty did, where like you sat for 2 years and then you crushed it when you played. Versus now, like, I don't think college programs are afforded to really do the quote unquote development, because guys are just, they want to go play, and they can go play. And currently they can go get paid a lot to go do that.
It's interesting because it's similar in the NFL. There's just not a lot of time to develop these guys. And really, your chance to develop those players, the couple years we got watching somebody go through their study habits all week long, watch them learn and master the offense, watch the way they interacted with players in the huddle. You take things from those guys, you glean things off of those other players, and it's incredibly beneficial. Now the time to teach your players is really the bowl game preparation. When these guys leave high school early and they show up for 4 weeks just to get ready for a bowl game that they're not even playing in, but they get to run scout team. I guess that's the only time that you really have, because after that, if they're not playing, they're gone. And everybody's on a 1-year deal, no salary cap. We'll see what happens. So that makes life really, really hard. And half these coaches spend a good chunk of their time recruiting their own players to stay. Forget going to high school anymore. Forget going to the portal. They got to keep guys, right, from leaving. So there's these other forces at play here that make, a guy sitting for 2 years and watching a really good player in front of them an anomaly. It just really doesn't happen anymore. And that's just the nature of the game and the circumstances now. It's not necessarily, bad for each player, but I'd love to see him get that opportunity. And, with the way NIL works, we know Clay Matthews, but you don't get stories like Clay Matthews. I know he's a legacy player at USC. He's got an uncle and a dad in the Hall of Fame. Like, I get that. But he showed up at USC 145 pounds soaking wet, and then became this player that was grinding on special teams, getting thrown all over the field by bigger players, bulked up, beefed up, matured finally, and then was an absolute wrecking ball. And nobody could touch him. And he goes in the first round, has the sack record for the Green Bay Packers. I mean, that's incredible. So you just don't get those stories anymore, because if you're not on the field and you think you should be, I'm just going to bounce around to different places. So it's a much different landscape, but I do think there's value in that maturation process when you can watch, and you got to be watching somebody who's good, right? If you're watching a slappy, then it's not as it's not as beneficial, and you got to just watch the coach and listen to the coach and kind of figure it out for yourself. But yeah, these guys are having to play early and not getting that chance to watch a really good player in front of them with good habits.
Yeah, it's interesting, man. Like, you were part of the Elite 11, Elite 11 MVP alumni right here, Mark Sanchez, folks. I've been doing Elite 11 for 17 years now. And the last 2 years, I went into it thinking, like, is this going to be the most pompous, arrogant, me first group? And it's been the two best groups in the
That's great.
entirety of my time. Because I think there's something to that position, your point of, like, guys want community. Not only is it how are you navigating reality now, but it's also, hey, I want a group of people that I can go learn from. Like, I love whether it's Jordan Palmer, there are different guys that are different 3D QB. Like, there's really Justin Hoover. There's guys across the country do a really nice job. And I think the community might be priority number one. So you can ask somebody a couple questions, because to your point, you are thrust right into it. So let's go to being thrust right into it. You are the only guy. I don't know if you know this. You're the only guy
Oh,
started as a quarterback for the Pete Carroll and the Chip Kelly. And now they both find their way into Las Vegas for the
let's
Raiders.
go.
What do you think about that? I mean, we've talked a few times, off air about it, obviously, when it was shaking out. But, you as an analyst now, I mean, I want to be your PA. Can I be your spotter for the first Raiders? And do, like, we need
I
the
hope we
Tom
get a
Brady
couple.
behind the scenes, like, YouTube channel or something like that, because it's so unique, man. Like, you've known these guys, you love these guys, you've watched them develop, you've played for them. What are your thoughts on how this thing is going to go down in Vegas?
It's it's interesting when your worlds kind of collide like that. And two coaches that I've kept in touch with, and I'm glad I have. I think the reason I've really wanted to keep a relationship with them didn't really have to do with work, but it was really the messaging that they sent the players. And when it resonates, when it actually sinks in and you believe it. And I've said some of the things that both of those coaches say to me, to my kid, to my 8-year-old son, when basketball's hard, when school's hard, when life is hard. buddy, I got answers for you, and I learned it from some really smart people, some intelligent people and thoughtful people that knew how to push the right buttons. They understand the psychology of players is completely different player by player. It's totally subjective, and they can connect with anybody. And they really do. It's interesting. They do say they have similar messaging when it comes to your preparation, the pride you take in your work, the love you show your teammates. It's got to transcend football. This has to be a family. This has to be a tight knit group. For Coach Carroll, we protect the team. That's rule number one. Protect the team with your words, your thoughts, your actions. All those things matter. So Pete Carroll was protect the team. Chip had habits reflect. He would say that to the team, habits reflect, and then you would say the mission. The rest of the players would repeat the mission. Coach Carroll talked about there's no new footwork, there's no new reads, there's no new technique on game day. We don't make anything up on game day. This isn't the day to experiment. We did that all week long for 6 days. On the seventh day, you go play ball and trust what you've prepared. And then for Chip Kelly, his one of his big sayings was, "You don't just suddenly rise to the occasion; you sink to the level of your training." You're not bigger, faster, stronger, smarter on game day. You just do what you've done all week long. There's nothing new. So they're saying the same thing. It's like saying, how many, footballs are there? Well, there's six. How many footballs are there, Coach Kelly? Well, half a dozen. They literally are saying the same thing, just a different way. It's almost like this like mirror image of them. So when Chip and Pete kind of collided there in Vegas, I remember texting them, and my first thought was, I've I've never in a world imagined texting both of you on the same thread, but congratulations, go Raiders, and good luck, and so they both responded. And then quickly, of course, because Chip was the first coach I ever did zone read with, and I thought he was crazy for calling any of those zone reads with me in at quarterback, because I saw Michael Vick do it, I saw cut-ups of other guys doing it, and I'm like, I'm a little bit faster than Foles but not much, and he didn't do a lot of keeps, so I'm like, what are we doing here? Do we have to do that? And his whole charge was like, listen, trust me, we're going to leave the end unblocked. And I'm like, that's crazy. Have you seen any of these creatures coming off the edge in the NFL? I'm like, you're crazy. This isn't going to work. This isn't going to work. Well, I think it was ahead of his time, honestly, because everybody does it now. And he reminded me, you give unless that guy's going to make the tackle, give the ball, right? For a loss in the backfield of the running back, give the ball. And he said, you just have to keep him honest. We're talking one, maybe two out of 10 times you're going to keep this thing. He goes, I don't need you running for 65 yards. I just need you to run for 4. Just give me 4 yards and give me a good 9-yard sprint, because you're 5 yards deep ish. And I need 4 more yards past the line of scrimmage. And that's good. Give me 4 yards. If it's 4th and 4, you got to give me 4. If it's 4th and 5, I'm probably not letting you run it. You know what I mean? That kind of mentality. And so it was so fun to learn that. And so I immediately texted Chip. I said, hey, I better be on those cut-ups. That install tape, when you get these quarterbacks in there and you're installing, I better have some keeps on there. And Pete chimed in immediately. That's a short clip of quarterback keeps on zone read for Sanchez. So it was pretty funny. Chip wrote, he put in a GIF of who's our the famous sprinter.
Usain Bolt.
Yes, Usain
Oh
Bolt,
yeah,
and
yeah.
he's
He's a big GIF
breaking
guy.
through the finish line and doing his thing. I was like, yeah, that's me. So
Oh,
it
that's
was
so
it was
good.
great.
Okay, all right. I know we're up against it here. I want to hit you with two. Maybe I'll squeeze for a third here. We'll be quick here to get you out of here. Okay. Number one, you mentioned Sam Darnold. Love Sam. Who doesn't, right?
Yep,
He's part of the Trojan family, like
that's
yourself.
right.
I can remember Sam being a 3-star recruit who was playing basketball and linebacker. And we saw him one day, and I was with Trent Dilfer at the time in the Bay Area, and we both looked at each other and said, kind of reminds me of Andrew Luck. And he went on and had a really storied career in college. Obviously, ups and downs. You know that all too well in the National Football League, but just thrived. You also know KOC, aka NFL Coach of the Year, Kevin O'Connell. I believe he's one of your backups when you were with the Jets, and then he was with you when he was coaching in Washington. To that point, I'm curious, what are your thoughts on KOC's rise? And then what do you think will happen with Sam? I mean, you've been in this situation before, and I don't think a lot of our listeners, it's a heavy college football. I think you can glean some insight into how this thing gets navigated with really respect and regard being the leader in the clubhouse for KOC's personality.
But I think it's so important for quarterbacks to understand this thing is a marathon, not a sprint. And if it doesn't work out with your first ball club, that's not the end of your career. That doesn't necessarily have to define you. Now you got to find the right spot to revive your career and get with somebody who understands the quarterback position. A lot of times as a rookie, you don't control that. You're going to get drafted where you get drafted. That's why it's the draft. And then after that, in free agency, understanding where your stock is, what you really need to work on, take that introspective look at yourself and like, okay, who am I as a player? What do I need? Get me to one of these quarterback coaches, whether it's a Shanahan or O'Connell or McVay or whatever. I mean, Baker Mayfield plays one Thursday night game against the Raiders and suddenly he's back. I mean, the guy showed up on a Monday, played on a Thursday night and looked better than he ever did, any other time in his career, maybe other than the playoffs in Cleveland. And that was after going through two franchises. So this was his third franchise and now he suddenly revives his career. He's gotten two coaches, head coaching jobs in Canales and Cohen, back-to-back years with new coordinator. I mean, that is unheard of. They better send him a holiday card and a bottle of wine or something every year for the rest of their life. I mean, this is a big deal that these guys get to do this. And so Sam is just another one in that succession, really, and that progression for quarterbacks. It's not over if it doesn't work at that first organization. Go find one of these quarterback coaches and people that see it through the quarterback's eyes. And so for Kevin O'Connell, I mean, we knew he was going to coach way back when. It was almost like watching the way Derek Fisher used to talk to Kobe and other players on the Lakers, and he could like point stuff out and talk about technique and screening and rolling and, how to space out the floor and everything. And people could just tell like, oh, okay, that guy's going to coach. Kevin was exactly like that. The way he knew protections, defensive pressures. I mean, he helped Rex Ryan and Mike Pettin and all these guys dial up some of those pressures that got home in a divisional game on the road in New England against Brady that got us free runners on Brady to get him off the spot and get him frustrated. As soon as we had our chance, we found that tiny sliver of hope when you play the Patriots. It rarely shows its head, but we found it and boom, and we attacked them. And so then we could do what we wanted on offense, but it took guys like Kevin to give us that chance. And so anytime he's calling the plays for a quarterback, I think you're in a really good spot because of the way he sees it. And all those coordinators I named, I know there's more out there. I just think I'm obviously biased, but I think if you can see it, the entire organization sees it through that quarterback's eyes. And if they're going to be successful, everybody wants to stay in that one city, watch their kids grow up in that city, have success. Well, then that guy's got to be a good player. And to make him a good player, you got to pour everything into him. So I think they do a really good job of that. And Sam, benefited from that this year.
Yeah, I cannot wait to see how that thing shakes out with him. Okay, the era that we're in, we just talked about a few times in this conversation. You go back to your teams at SC. I mean, they were loaded, right? 3 running backs or 4 running backs
Yeah.
in the cover of SI. There was used the quarterback room we referenced. What do you think happens in this era to a team like that that's loaded? Do you think guys leave? Do you think the theme of competition that Pete was preaching was strong enough to hold it together? I've never asked you that before. I'm kind of curious your take.
Yeah, I don't know if you can keep that much. I mean, we were recruiting players and having them on our roster just so they didn't play for other teams at a certain point, it felt like we just took another 5-star running back. I'm like, how's T-Mac going to get these guys to even practice, let alone to the game? Like we don't even have enough reps. There's not enough time in the day to get these guys the football and get them, in a groove with the offensive line so they know who's running the ball. But they were all really talented players. And then, the best one seems to rise to the top. And whether it's injuries, whether it's opportunities, whatever it took, you get those types of players to push themselves. And it's like, whether you're in a quarterback room at Elite 11, whether you're in a running back room with 12 other running backs, receivers, 10 deep. I mean, when you go watch these guys, somebody's going to be the alpha. Somebody's going to be the leader. Somebody's going to be the quickest, the fastest, the strongest. Somebody's going to be the smartest. And it's like watching a litter of puppies, and you can kind of discern for yourself, okay, yeah, that one's got some big paws. That one's going to be good in a couple years, but he's not quite ready yet. He's a little raw. Got it. Okay, this guy's a finished product. This guy's ready to go hunt right now. And we might need to get him the ball immediately. those kind of things. So that kind of stuff shakes out. I just don't know if you have it now. Everybody wants it's a we know we live in that instant gratification society, and so everybody wants results immediately. And I don't know if it's sustainable with this landscape the way college football is now.
Yeah, I think even like Ohio State, I said it was the best team I'd seen, right? And even those teams at SC, they were loaded. I think you almost have to have a team that has guys that get to their third year
Yes.
and have stayed there, and then it's like,
Yeah.
okay, to your point, complete the mission, and then maybe they come on back because they're getting paid. So it's an interesting
Exactly right.
conversation. Okay, let's get you out on this. Okay, we're gonna go to 3rd and 7. Okay, you know the title of this show, man. This is why
Advantage
off.
defense.
Yeah. Okay, we're gonna go trouble right under 61 saw Y&R option. Okay, trouble right under 61 saw Y&R option on one. Ready?
I hope we get split safety,
I like it.
and I'm going to check my matchups on the Y and the halfback and see which one I like best. But any kind of quarters, and we got a backer on our back, I'm licking my chops. I can't get the snap fast enough, working to my kitty, and then some sort of check down. And then if we like our Y matchup, I'm working him. The seam's going to work behind him. That'd be like an absolute, you never really throw it on the cut-ups. You don't see it thrown much, but it'd be more for like a cover zero beater. You got to retreat and launch something down the middle, and then some sort of route outside, whether a delay under or an outside kitty on the right would be to your Z or your F, depending on treble or trio or whatever. So
I love it. All right, little trouble right under
that's right.
61 saw
Yeah, what do we
Y&R
do?
option.
Trips, trips, trio,
Trio.
trouble,
Trouble. Yeah, yeah. It's good.
trouble, right under 61 saw,
Yeah,
or yeah, saw,
yeah. Y.
Y and R option, right? Option was like that.
Yeah, we're rolling. We're rolling. I love it. All right, there it is, Mark. So I won't ask you to do any more of those, but you're going to have like a lot of like trouble right under 61 saw Y&R option with 3 kids in your household pretty soon. 2 twin girls on the way. So you and Perry like figure out your call
Yeah.
sheet. I'm sure you're already working on your script, your first 15 days.
Oh
But
man.
keep us posted, man. We can't wait to send you something once these 2 beautiful angels show up and arrive in your life. It's been awesome, man. I mean, think of our life. I remember you as a teenager recruit coming to USC.
Dude,
And
even the
then,
behind the remember you were the one who convinced us to do the behind the scenes, where these players live.
yeah,
And we did like a Cribs episode at our apartment, me and Stanley Havili. Yogi was ahead of his time, man. I've been around some good people that understand what fans want, and so I know they're getting their fill here with Y options. Pretty cool.
yeah, thanks, dude. So many great memories with you. I always, when I talk to people about you, I'm like, Mark's the one guy that came in when I came in, and we did 4 years together. Kind of left. I can remember visiting you in the Jets when you were drafted there.
That was
I think I
cool.
still have like a copy of the Jets playbook. Don't tell Rex
Let's
Ryan.
go.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. All right, I love it. Thanks, Mark. Congrats on everything, man. What a great season again, Mark. One of the top analysts, I believe, in all of football. Check him out on Fox. Check him out on YouTube with Colin Cowherd. He's on that. Has been on that every single week all season long, and now he's on Y Option, folks. How lucky are we? Love you, man. Thanks for the time. There it is. There it is. There it is.
Appreciate it, buddy.
It's the Afterglow. Yogi Roth, Jim Thornby. That was Mark Sanchez. That's right. Fox Sports broadcaster, color commentator. Way more importantly to me, just a great friend and one of the guys I've known for over 20 years now. He joined the show, as always, presented by our founding partner, 76, keeping you in the know on the go, go, go. Jim, he easily would have won 5-star QB many times in the season. Would have been
Easily.
QB of the year. Yeah, easily, man. He contributed to the book, 5-star quarterback as well. Curious, what did you think about his contributions to Y Option in our conversation?
Well, there's 2 main takeaways that I'll have here. The first one is I loved him talking about when evaluating the quarterbacks that he wants to watch their post-game pressers when they sucked. Basically, like, how did they handle that? And I don't know maybe if it was subtle or not, but if you look in the background behind Mark, you saw like New York Post headline, New York Daily News headline from his times with the Jets. So he knows a little something about having to deal with some intense media scrutiny. So I thought that was really cool there. And also just the way that they, think about the game. It kind of made me think about, I don't know if you saw this clip from, it was Tom Brady during Super Bowl week.
Oh yeah, for
And,
sure.
talking about his superpower was just how about being able to analyze things so quickly, that he studied so much, and just he knew everything before it was happening because he knew the other team's thing. And then kind of then on that same level, how Mark was describing Kevin O'Connell's almost ability to almost out Brady in that when he was, as the backup quarterback as the Jets, helping to like his team design up plays there on defense. So I just thought, it was a really fun conversation. You guys obviously have a great relationship, and it was fun to just experience from that point. But there's some cool little analysis nuggets throughout there that I really honed in on.
Yeah, he's got just a beautiful lens on the game because, to your point, he had immediate success once he was a starter at SC. He waited, though, and then he had immediate success with the Jets. I got to find it. I have the playbook of the Jets, his rookie year, somewhere behind me. I think it was, you put his OC, I think it was Schottenheimer. Yeah, Brian Schottenheimer and Matt Cavanaugh held a pit. That's right. He was there. I remember he gave me a copy of it in his hotel, and I was like, oh, let me help you study for this thing. So that was kind of cool. So he had immediate success, and then he had ups and downs. And I think that's important. Like, you can't run from adversity, right? We say that all the time to these quarterbacks. Mark is a beautiful example of that. And you're right. The point in the media for all the quarterbacks listening and their families and coaches and SIDs, they all know it already, but putting them out in front is great for them. How do they navigate it? I love how Mark also, my big takeaway was how he studies the game. I always love studying, I call it pace, plays after critical errors. So to me, the drive after a pick, I always have a camera following the quarterback on the sideline. What's his body language like? What's the first call coming off? What do they do on the first third down or a critical moment after a challenging drive? So adversity, you can't run from it, and you can find tons of growth within it. So thank you for the insights, Mark. Thank you to 76 for all of the love. I hope you enjoyed that one as we deep dive here in the offseason with Dylan Gabriel. That was Mark Sanchez. We got Kalen DeBoer coming next week. A lot of fun stuff as the combine is almost underway and the offseason is fully underway. I know Jim is shaking his head. We can't believe how fast this thing has gone. All right, everybody. Lots of love. Stay steady. Peace.